What's going on, Jeromes? We're back. Happy hump day. Happy Wednesday out there, everyone who celebrates. Daily Jerome's live stream, talking Vikings, talking draft, talking nonsense. 11 a.m. Central Time-ish, Monday through Thursday. Thanks for coming along. Got a bunch of questions. Let's go. Pulford Skull, write this down. You heard it here first. Next year, heck, maybe this year, but hope not. Kubiak will be head coach and Janako OC 2022. Youngblood leading the Vikings to 10 Jerome Bardys. It's not out of the realm of possibility where if Kubiak was elevated, Janako would be OC in title. Man, if they wash out Zimmer, I don't know if they would just turn to Kubiak, even if the Vikings offense is on point. I don't know. I would just say screw it. I would, but Amit Mather. Just want to say I really appreciate the work you do, and all of them are amazing. So keep up the amazing work. Hey, thank you. Robert Barweiler, is there any reason Kirk would rework his contract and not have that guaranteed salary for next year? No, we wouldn't. I mean, unless you enticed him in that he will have a lump sum payment forever, or an annuity, like a Bobby Bonilla style, except that would be circumventing the salary cap. Vikings would get hammered with that. No, I mean, the Vikings signed that extension. They didn't have to last offseason, and he is getting $35 million on March 25th, fully guaranteed next year. So, Tommy Johnson, Andy, keep up the great work. Thank you. Love the content. Cutting Rudolph, cutting Barr, restructuring Reef, and cutting Shamar Stephen. Does those four free up enough room to realistically afford Thuney? Reef, Thuney, Bradbury, Cleveland, O'Neal one time, get some skull. Let's look at the calculator. Vikings calculator. Can't spell today. It's okay. It's not a big deal. All right, so calculator. All right, so this one has the Vikings $7 million over the salary cap, but that's with it estimated at 185, but also doesn't factor in the rollover, I believe, but we'll see. So just keep that in mind. So 7.6 in the hole, and we're going to go through, and we're going to cut Barr, cut Reef, cut Rudy, and who else did he say? Stephen, yeah. Shamar Stephen cut. So you go from 7.6 in the hole to 17.5 in the black. So that would be, 25-1? Yeah, roughly. Bulk of that being a Riley Reef, since he is due $11 million. Next up, Mason Dean. Thoughts on the whole Orlando Brown situation? What do you think is needed from the Vikings to acquire him? Love the content. I would trade for him. So Orlando Brown was a third-round pick out of Oklahoma a handful of seasons ago. Now, he had a really bad combine, but it didn't cost him because people with 2 eyeballs and 2 brain cells, hey, kid had a horrible day, is what it is. But the Browns, the Ravens picked him up. His dad was a Brown, and then he was a Raven. Phenomenal. Zeus, rest in power, by the way. But yeah, Orlando Brown Jr. quickly turned to one of the best right tackles in the game. And then after Ronnie Stanley went out with that horrific injury this year, he flipped over to left tackle and was phenomenal. And I think that he will be a left tackle going forward. That's where the money is. I think he's perfectly suited to do it. And I think the Vikings should inquire. They should, because they do have the chit where they can include Riley Reef as part of the deal. Reef could take a pay cut with the Ravens, play right tackle. He did that in Detroit his final season once they drafted Taylor Decker. And I would be in. Orlando Brown is damn talented. So the Reef part of it is sort of whatever. And I know we put out on the poll, would you trade Reef in 14 for Orlando Brown? I would do it. I would. But I understand people think that might be a little bit too steep, especially since the Vikings don't have a second-round pick. But, I mean, Reef and a third, Reef and 2/3, that's not going to get done, especially since there are going to be some serious suitors out there for Orlando Brown. Flight reacts. Yeah, there's a lot of Orlando Brown questions. I'm going to gloss over a bunch of them. He wants to play left tackle, make $20 million, but leverage kind of. He can win a Super Bowl to give up way too much cap space. Draft capital, get him. It reminds me awfully. Okay. Abza Abdi, bold prediction. Tua's brother will be number 1 overall pick in the 2022 draft. So Tua's brother, quarterback at Maryland, he whooped the Gophers' ass this year. Like he is really intriguing. I don't know if he'll be number 1 because. as unfair as it is to the younger Tua Tagovailoa, it really is dependent on how Tua does this year. Because if Tua's brother, if Tua doesn't do very well this year, I mean, his brother is going to get dinged in the draft. That's just how it is. It's like how the Texans in 2014, they had the number 1 overall pick. They went Clowney at 1, and then they had the top pick in the second round. And they should have gone Derek Carr, except they couldn't because of their history with David Carr, even though it's going to hold them back. But yeah, I think if we had to throw a dart right now, I do think the number 1 overall pick is going to be Spencer Rattler. But Sam Howell could get in the Derby. Kedon Slovis could get back in. I mean, Desmond Ridder, if he has another phenomenal season, could make himself a first-round pick, potentially vault himself all the way up. Kai Severson, nailed it. Longtime listener, first-time caller, do you think the Vikings will inquire on Deshaun Watson? Also, instead of signing Patrick Peterson, will they sign someone on the line, both sides? I think they'll inquire about Deshaun. I don't think they'll get far. And in terms of signing Peterson as opposed to, well, it's not mutually exclusive. Well, to a degree, since, there's only so much money to go around, even though hashtag cap is a myth, Brzezinski is a wizard, but only to a degree. But taking away money from not signing Patrick Peterson and throwing it on the line, sure. But does going after Peterson mean that they can't sign some mid-level guards or mid-level defensive tackles? No. Amza Abdi. List the top 5 songs you'd use for your intro without the fear of YouTube jail or copyright. Well, since this is a Vikings channel, are we legally obligated to use the Immigrant Song? Because I feel like that's been so overdone. Or awesome idea at first. I love Led Zeppelin. It's a great song, but it's been effed out. The life has been effed out of it. Let's see other songs. Tupac, Hail Mary. It's a good one. I liked how they use that in Creed. What else? Oh, Meredith Brooks, I'm a Bitch. Throwback to the late 90s. That'd be a good one. REM, End of the World. I always like that song. It's a good one. Then what else? I don't know. Well, I'm just more going into the songs that I like as opposed to songs that have anything to do with the channel. All right, Beck, I'm a Loser. I guess that would fit both for me and for the team that I root for. Yeah, I'll go with that. Landon Miller, $5 in the super chat. Any chance you mind refreshing the page? I know it ain't much, but it's what I have. I mean, okay. Random. Oh, you had a question late? Okay. Let's see. Now we got to find her spot again. Oh, god damn it. So it reshuffles the questions. Great. Brady Doran, thoughts on trading out of the first round and picking up a 2 this year and a future 2? Depends on what the board looks like, but it's a very realistic situation. But if there's a team that is motivated to come up, it's going to cost them more, Chief. Like, we're talking about a 2 and a future 1, potentially. Sure. Tommy Johnson. Andy, keep up the good work. Love the content. I read that one. Cody Hurd, did you see where Clint said we must evolve our game plan or else we'll get left in the dust? Maybe we finally get a great offense. Well, he kind of has to say that, right? As opposed to, hey, on 2nd and 11, we're still going to run the ball. Yeah. I do think that he brings some fresh ideas to the table. I don't think that he's going to be caught in the trap of like, hey, this is the way that we've always done it, because he's never done it. And I'm really looking forward to that. Landon Miller, do you believe in Bigfoot? No. Have you seen it's in the iPhone? No. Number 2, my cat knocked over my profile mug, so I'm going to have to buy a new one. Sweet. It's unfortunate, but cats are a-holes, by the way, even though I do prefer cats. No, that's a lie. I like dogs. Actually, can we like both? I actually like both. Chris Danny Hansen, Vikings should get a good backup for Kirk just to piss him off so he plays angry thoughts. Yes. Been saying that for a long time. Enough with the slappies of Trevor Siemian and Nate Stanley and Sean Mannion. Get him out of there. Now, draft Trey Lance at 14. Go ahead. Or sign Fitzmagic. Why the hell not? Spend the money. Let's see here. Orlando Brown. We sort of covered that. Orlando Brown, yes. Samuel McMullen. Have you heard of Cokato, Minnesota. Me and my fiance's family take a trip up there every year, every summer. We love Minnesota. I have not. Where is it? Cokato. In the midst of opportunity. All right, so Cokato, up in Lakes Country, dirt. Oh, it's out west. No, I've not heard of Cokato, but I do know that like Lakes Country west of the cities is really underrated. But and also, same thing with south of the cities. Although we should keep this under wraps because like Lake Country along 90 as you're headed towards Mankato, really nice. But everyone has that mystique of going up north, so that's why places like Southwest as well as in western Wisconsin are a little bit more underpriced since everyone and their mom heads up to Detroit Lakes or heads up to Alexandria, etc. Even though we head up to Alexandria since it's tradition. Next up, Spartus JX. If this next season goes south, missing playoffs, for example, what do you think the odds are the Vikings will go into at least partial rebuild mode? I think that it is highly likely. I think that depending on what happens with the offense, I mean, Clint Kubiak would really have to sell himself to ownership and be like, hey, you see what Kevin Stefanski's doing. He's a young guy. He had one season of play calling experience. I am that guy. I'm ready to lead this franchise. I'll have my dad on speed dial. Be like, well, what do you do, Chad Baby? Play him. Cool. Yeah, I think the defense would definitely be washed out. Unfortunately, I think since Andre Patterson stepped up as co-regional defense coordinator, I think he would be on the chopping block. Zimmer, the kid, would be washed out as well. Trading veterans, I think that might be a year late because there's not going to be a trade market for Barr. Harrison Smith will be out of contract unless you extend him because he's on his final year. So they may just let him go, get the compensatory pick, and see. I guess he could trade Thielen. That'd be weird, though. That'd be weird. Landon Propadnik, trades part 2. Texans call you offering Deshaun for Kirk Cousins, 14 overall, and a 2022 first. Would you accept? Yes. I don't think they would do that, though. Because the Texans are fully rebuilding. Why would you get a guy like Kirk Cousins? No, build around a young guy. Hey, let us know where you're watching from. Give a couple shout-outs. Double BBB 88. Thoughts on Liam Eichenberg if he's available at the right spot for the Vikings? Seems like a plug and play. Love the show. I do like Eichenberg. I do question his footwork, though, because even though being a scheme fit is not necessarily a deal breaker for me, I do wonder about his transition to the NFL, though. I think that he's certainly got the size. I think he's certainly got the ass and the anchor, but I do have questions. And 14's too early for him. I think he'll be gone by 78. I think he'll probably go in that late second round area. So, I mean, unless the Vikings trade down or trade up, I'm sort of whatever on him. MIT03. Why is Dylan Moses fallen so far down in mock drafts? He used to be mocked right behind Michael Parsons just a month or two ago. Well, I think part of it was the positional value, and you see a lot of value going towards the wide receivers. The quarterbacks are always going to be pushed up, as well as edge rushers. And I think Dylan Moses, just off-ball linebackers, not always going to be that valuable. Jack Sims. What happens if Pierce opts out again? It's that interview who's going to be getting the vaccine hopefully soon. Be good to go this season, but what's going on. Well, they haven't had negotiations of what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be a similar system of opt-outs this year as it was last year. So if he opts out, it may just be he just doesn't show up. And I don't know if there will be a medical provision this time around. So if he opts out, it might just nullify his contract and the Vikings might be able to walk away from it. Hunter Williams. What's up, Skull from NYC? Would trade Cousins 2 firsts to the Bears for Wentz, Jalen Johnson, and a second. Well, they would have to trade for Wentz first. But no. I love me some Jalen Johnson. The shoulders scare the hell out of me, though. It's not so much that it was a single labrum, but he's had issues on both of them. And he re-injured his shoulder this season. So, no. Sam Salinger Skull. What do you think the Saints will do with their cap space? Best channel ever. You gonna make my off-season Skull Vikes. Hey, thank you. Saints, Saints are in trouble, man. So you saw how they restructured Drew Brees, even though he's probably retiring, which, there's hashtag cap is a myth, and then there's absolute outright cheating. And the Saints are that. Mickey Loomis is a crook. But they're probably not going to re-sign Ramczyk. They're probably not going to re-sign Marcus Williams. They may have to cut some high-priced guys. They may have to cut guys like Demario Davis. I mean, hell, maybe they'll trade Cam Jordan, which I would not be upset about. Stupid Saints in your faces. A couple shout-outs. Brady Schmidt, Fairfield, Iowa. What's up? Landon Miller's watching from biology class. What's going on? It's probably not AP. Back. Ira Coffin, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Sue Pig, Miles, Denver. Sunshine State, gorgeous. Pulford Skull, Nashville, Tennessee. Hot Chicken, Purple Rainbow, Saw, Wisconsin. Nick V, Cambridge. That's in Cambridge, Minnesota. All right. Justin Jones, New Bern, North Carolina, feeling the burn. Diego Suarez, Skull from Houston. H-Town up in the house. Thank you very much for coming along. You guys are the best. And Arthur Rocha III from Crookston, Minnesota. I almost went to U of M Crookston. I got a scholarship offer. I said, no. Next up. R. Free, do you think the new alignment of offensive coaches will bring this offense to the next level? Infusion of some younger blood with a proven scheme? Well, youth is not always a guarantee of innovation, but I do have hope for Clint Kubiak. I do really like Andrew Janako. I think him bouncing around from various positions will benefit him as a quarterback's coach going forward. And I think, like we've outlined, if the Vikings season is underwhelming and Zimmer has to pay the price. I mean, he comes into the season on the hot seat, but if the defense falters again and the offense is top dog, they would have to consider elevating Clint Kubiak. Miles, how much impact does Eric Kendricks have on the game? He basically shuts down the middle of the field to the passing game. He does, where he is the best off-ball coverage linebacker in the game. And, that middle third makes a big, big difference. So basically, so you have the middle third of the field. It's the shortest area for the quarterback. That's why slot receivers, tight ends for a young quarterback are always the security blankets, shortest throws, whatever. But if you take that away, that means that you have to go over the top. That means you have to go outside the numbers. That means you have to go outside. So that really does open up a young quarterback for a lot of mistakes, and even older quarterbacks too. Plus, when Kendricks is in, the Vikings are capable of running a lot more Tampa 2, especially on like third and forever situations. Now, it's not ideal. Would rather bring heat, but it is safe. Where Kendricks in that Tampa 2, playing that middle linebacker spot, he does take up, well, you have two deep safeties, hence, the Tampa 2, but that middle linebacker has to take up like the middle quarter of the field. And that's what Kendricks is so good, taking away those seams, taking away those deep middle routes. And like he really does cover like a safety. So that's what he brings. Also, he's, a absolute dog in the run game as well. And it's really amazing what he did last year, considering the defensive tackles in front of him were extremely deficient in the run game and absorbing bodies. So, 54 from my money, best middle linebacker in the game. Miles. How did Kirk Cousins fix his game after the bye? He got angry. Well, I'm sure that there were micro adjustments that Clint Kubiak put in place, but I think a lot of it is just Kirk got outside of his own head, where he is a guy that if things go bad, they can snowball, and then he just can't get out of his own way. And you can see from his body language, like he just wears that stress like on his body. But I feel like at a certain point, he's just like, F it. This season isn't going to go our way, but I'm just going to play ball. And that's where you get best Kirk Cousins, where if he's loose, not inside his own head, if he's angry, it's where he is. Let's hear. Apex Legend Gamer, Skull from the Desert. Joel Lopez, Rhode Island. What up? Don Mack, Fargo. That's right. Next up is Thorvald Von Johnson. Any thoughts on why Watson might refuse to be traded to the Vikings? Rumor says Minnesota is a trade destination, taxes, coaches, Jeromes. I mean, it could be something as trivial as weather. So, Russell Okung, before the Vikings signed Riley Reif, he was ready to sign a free agent deal with the Vikings. Now, reportedly, it was his wife didn't want to live in Minnesota, and that's why he left the Vikings on the altar. That's why he went elsewhere. That's amazing. Like sometimes it does come down to quality of life. Now taxes certainly do play a part in it. Minnesota does have high personal income taxes as opposed to other states, especially him coming from Texas where there's no state income tax. So it would factor in. I do think that, well, Watson would be able to file in New Jersey if he went to the Jets, since they play in New Jersey as opposed to Manhattan. But I do think that money, taxes, him going to Florida, him going to Miami makes a ton of sense. Coaches, I don't think you necessarily have a problem with Clint Kubiak. I don't think he knows him from Adam. Plus, maybe he does see Minnesota as like, okay, so Zimmer potentially could be on the hot seat. Next guy, I will likely have some say in who it's going to be. And also, I don't get why teams don't include the say from some of their star players. Hey, stop spamming the chat. There we go. Because like the Patriots never consulted Brady on personnel issues. They didn't. You think that they would do that, but it's odd. Next up, let's hear. Ira Coffin, love channel. Why are we Jeromes? You know what you did. Michael Dexter, thoughts on the Panthers waiting to trade their number 8 overall pick and Teddy Bridgewater to the Lions and Stafford, wanting to trade. Well, it says that they're desperate. Like they feel like that they're going to be just a quarterback away in 2021. And was Stafford going to be that missing link? It's possible, but that should open things up. So the Panthers showed their hand that they were in. They're ready to give up a top 10 selection and their starting quarterback. Now the Vikings wouldn't be interested in Teddy. It just is what it is. But 8 and some change for Kirk Cousins. Maybe they'll be in on Carson Wentz. Maybe they'll be in on a guy like Derek Carr. And they should definitely be in on Deshaun Watson, although that would be the best fit for him. Like, there's a ton of talent on that team, both sides of the ball, young and fast in Carolina. Plus, he already has a built-in fan base, him coming from Clemson. So, yeah. Max Kallenberg, you should keep the Kubiak voice act for Clint. You can hear the similarity. He's definitely not as Texas as Gary, but he does have a little bit of a twang. Since, well, see, he grew up in Colorado, right? Yeah, pretty sure he did. Plus, he went to Colorado State. But yeah, the speech, iambic pentameter, and syntax are very similar to the Pops. Miles. Clint praised Rick Dennison when asked, and Ficken praised Dan Bailey when asked, is there any weight to that? Well, when Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys, he really praised Tex Schramm and then fired him the next day. So I think when you get hired for a job, especially if it's your first time coming in, you do have to praise everyone, but there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some damn changes around here. And mainly it's, well, in Ficken's case, you talk nicely about Dan Bailey because you might be stuck with Dan Bailey. Like, you could throw Dan Bailey under the bus. All of a sudden, the Vikings, in their infinite wisdom, decide to run it back with him in 2021. You're like, oh, sorry, Dan. Brett G., what do you think of the mid-round linebackers? Could you see Jabril Cox or Chaz Surratt being top-end starters? So I really like Jabril coming out of LSU, Surratt from North Carolina as well. I found myself recently in mocks where if Cox is there in like late second, early third, you consider it. You do. And even though I think the Vikings will retain Anthony Barr probably on a pay cut, they may re-sign Eric Wilson given the free agent market. I think that his value is going to be depressed, so maybe they get him back on a one-year deal for a song. But yeah, even though you drafted Troy Dye, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt. Talent is talent. Abza Abdi, with the Vikings projected to be on the wrong side of the mythical cap, why are they taking so long to clear up some cap space? Well, it's a deadline-driven league, and they don't have to make moves yet. Like, you look at Rudy, you look at Reef, like there's no timeline for guarantees on their deals, I believe. So hell, they could wait all the way up till the start of the season and then cut them, right? And they will have to make some decisions. Like Dan Bailey's deal has $1.8 million of his $2.7 million base salary on the third day of the new league year. Anthony Barr has $7.5 of his $12.3 million base salary on the third day of the new league year. So, I mean, it's still a month and some changes, still like 5.5 weeks away from March 19th. But I think that you will start seeing some things getting cleared up. Plus, there's no timeline on when they're going to announce what the salary cap is going to be. And that messes with the franchise tag. That messes with free agency spending a lot. I mean, this is such a weird offseason. Samuel McMullen, What do you think is more likely? Vikings sign Joe Thuney or the Vikings trade Kirk? Definitely signing Thuney. Even though signing Thuney is probably only like a 15% proposition, trading Kirk, it's pretty low chance. Free. Are we witnessing the start of an NBA-like player movement? Can top-level starting quarterbacks dictate where they want to play? Eli kind of started in the draft. Well, yes, they could and should. I mean, there's only a handful of guys on planet Earth who can competently play quarterback, and there's only like 8 good ones. But yeah, I think they should certainly start. And Eli did not start this. John Elway started this back in '83. He's like, hey, Colts, no. I'm not playing for Carol Rosenblum. I'm not playing for Frank Kush. No. And then eventually he got his way to Denver. Landon Prepodnik nailed it. Do you think the Vikings will easily win the division if we make the right decisions, and considering Lions have horrid Jared Goff and the Packers cap situation? Yes. I think the Bears are going to be DOA. I think they just gave Matt Nagy, fake-ass Brad Childress, a reprieve from the governor, but he's still going to be executed this next season. I don't know if he even makes it through the year. Plus, they just promoted John DeFilippo to passing game coordinator. And for that, we thank you. I think the Lions won't be competitive this year, and the Packers are probably going to lose Aaron Jones. They're probably going to lose Preston Smith. They're probably going to lose Corey Linsley. They might even lose to Darius Smith. Samuel Salger Skull. I got Penny at 11 in one of my mock drafts. Probably not. Like, unless Penny kills 3 people, probably not. Landon Preponic. Do you think Greg Joseph will be a starter next year? If not, who will be? Well, they'll have to make a decision within the next 5.5 weeks. I think he will be. I think they'll end up cutting Dan Bailey and then rolling with Joseph, or have a competition between Joseph and a UDFA kicker. DG. Usman or Burns on the Saturday's fight. So this is one that got rescheduled. So I really like Kamaru Usman. I think he's an absolute stud. But the fact that Usman and Burns used to be teammates, they used to train together all the time, I actually think that gives Burns an advantage. Now, it obviously works both ways, but in terms of pricing the fight, Usman, I believe, is the overwhelming favorite, just because a lot of public money is coming in on the name brand. So I think Usman will win. I think it's pretty close. If I was wagering some jelly beans, I would bet on Burns. Yeah. D-pad, because I think you're going to get a good price. Would you be mad if the Vikings got a receiver with the first pick? No. Well, depending on who it is. Like, if it's Waddle, if it's Devontae or Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, since I consider him a receiver, yes. But, I mean, if they took Bateman at 14, that's a little bit too rich. I like his game. I don't love it. Same thing with Terrace Marshall. Now, Kadarius Toney, God, that would be kind of interesting. I would say no, that's a little bit too high. Same thing with Rondale Moore. You should do a video on Kellen Mond. We will. Because we're going to do one on Jamie Newman sometime this week. And we've been meaning to do one on Mond since the Senior Bowl, but we just never got around to it because we're #lazy. Klein, Skull from Panama. Would you trade Dalvin Cook for Justin Herbert and Michael Davis? Well, my brain says yes, but my heart says no, and also screw Chargers fans. So you don't get to imbibe in Dalvin. No. Astro Zeo Sports. If we pick Kwity Paye at 14, I'm going to scream in excitement. Kwity Paye is damn good. And I don't know what it is. Is it fancy play syndrome or just always trying to be in on the new hot guy? But, I mean, the hype for Rousseau compared to the hype for Paye, I don't get it. Or even the hype for Aziz. I don't get it. Like, I would take Paye and Aziz over Gregory Rousseau, and I would be perfectly fine taking either of them at 14. Luke Zacher. How do you think Aaron Donald would do as an edge rusher? Well, his motor, his quickness, and his hands would certainly be assets still, but I think that he would get outlengthed. Where, that was the concern of him coming in, where even for a defensive interior, like, his arm length just isn't there. But I do think that out on the edge full time, I think that his quickness would get negated, and tackles would just be able to get into his chest first and would really nullify his hand fighting advantage, where I still think he would be fine, but he wouldn't be the 3-tech Aaron Donald that we know and love. Next up, Joe Smith. Do you think he has a chance to be the GOAT defensive player when he retires? I think it's certainly possible because, he's doing what J.J. Watt did for a 4-year stretch from like 2012 to 2015, but he's staying healthy and he's doing it for an extended period of time. Like he's doing it for the long haul, and it's really, really damn impressive. And I think that if he stays the course and has another 3 or 4 seasons carbon copied of what he's had over the last 5, I think that he could easily be considered the greatest defensive player of all time. Joe Smith, Desmond Ridder is going to be a number 1 overall pick next year. Mark it down. Yeesh. What's the deal? What do you think the Packers' record will be? 7-10 BS. Yeah. Evan Arakawa. Thoughts on trying to sign Mariota? Well, he's a free agent. Well, no, he's not a free agent. Sorry. He's under contract. That's what I meant to say. Because the Raiders signed him to a 2-year deal last offseason, so they control his rights. I think that they're probably going to trade him somewhere. But trading for Mariota? Now, I think some quarterback needy teams are going to be able to put up some decent draft capital for Mariota. And given his salary, because I think that he's due $10 million. I want to say. Patrick Harms, congrats on JDF. Bears. Tristan Bailey, Jeromes, need you to fire up Madden. Maybe. Brevu Zelis, would you be okay if we trade up and get wide receiver or Penny Sewell? Yeesh. Or one of the cornerbacks like Sertan or Farley? I would be fine with it. Fans would riot. Chasing Gelke. Horrible tragedy, about 30-minute drive for me in Buffalo, Minnesota. Terrible day. I vaguely heard about that. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Some guy shot up a clinic or something. Yeah, it's horrible. Pulford Skull. Bengals need a left tackle. Is it possible to trade Riley in a package for like Boyd and Waynes or Mack draft picks? Well, Mack's a free agent. I'm not trading for Waynes' stupid contract. I mean, he's making $14 million a year. So no. Boyd would be intriguing. How about trading for Boyd and Geno Atkins for Riley Reif? Trading Riley Reif for Boyd, Geno Atkins on a massive pay cut, or the Bengals pick up the bulk of his contract, and then like a 6th-round pick. Yeah, sure. Spartus JX. How likely do you think it is by this time next year Eric Bieniemy will be the new head coach of the Vikings? 50-50 with Crystal Ball. MIT03. Would you rather have 53-year-old John Randall or current Jaleel Johnson? I would take John Randall because there's never been a inducted Hall of Famer play in an NFL game, and I want to see it happen. I want to see it happen with Megatron. And actually, so after Howie Long had been retired for a while, Al Davis tried to get him to come out of retirement, and Howie thought about it for like a half a second. It's like, no, I can't do it. Casey Cryan. O-line or D-line with numero 14? Given the composition of the offensive line and D-line class, well, if you get Darisaw at 14, take Darisaw. But if Darisaw is off the board, say he goes 13 to the Chargers, I would go D-line. I would take Barmore. I would take Kwity Paye. I would take Aziz. And then maneuver day 2, pick up as many interior offensive linemen as possible, and go from there. Seth V. Herman. Orlando Brown. Yes, I'm in. Kai Amistad. If we don't trade for Minshew this offseason, what should we do about the backup quarterback situation? Well, they'll probably overdraft Kyle Trask, and we'll be sads. But now, this is priming the pump. So we're talking down about Kyle Trask to a degree like how we did about Justin Jefferson last offseason, and then poof. Max Kellenberg. But in actuality, they'll probably sign, I don't know, they'll sign some veteran backup for not much money. Hell, Blake Bortles. I mean, come on. Let's go. Or Brandon Allen or someone. Max Kellenberg. Odds Bailey's cut now. I would say it's 70%. 70%, given the situation where if they let it go past March 19th, where 1.8 of his $2.7 million base salary is guaranteed, and then they cut him, that's just idiocy. MN. Seems to me that draft picks of any round are becoming overrated as players become more and more demanding of trades. Good teams can give away their draft picks to bad teams and eliminate the guesswork in the draft. 3 or 4 years down the road, when the cream is truly risen to the top. No, I think that's just the Rams. I think that's just the Rams mortgaging the future to try and win now. So I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be in vogue. Chris Danny Hansen, what's your opinion on Paul Allen? I think that Paul Allen is the second best play-by-play guy in the National Football League, where love and respect his game. Radio show is great. I think that he is the GOAT Vikings announcer. I would only put Gene, the Buccaneers radio guy, Gene Decker, I want to say. I think PA would agree with that too. I mean, dude is a legend. But yeah, PA had like the weird-ass career path where he was like a racetrack announcer, and it still is, Canterbury. You hear him over the summer. It's phenomenal fun. And then he was like the news guy. He was like the news boy for Jesse Ventura's radio show. And then he progressed from there. And like Paul Allen, he is a one of a kind treasure. He is the GOAT. He is that guy. Love Paul Allen. Brett Vuzelis. I hope we sign Kenny Golladay or Juju or Allen Robinson. Which one did you prefer? I would prefer Golladay because Golladay is a true blue wide receiver 1. Juju is better as a 2 or a 3. Allen Robinson, this will be his second big contract, so he's a little bit older. So yeah, give me Babytron all day, babe. Michael Merchant Robbles. Is Greg Joseph good? No. Brett Vuzelis. Do you think the Lions would be good next year? No. Jake Alexander. Would you rather keep Dalvin or Danielle Hunter on the team? Given that running backs age like milk, I would take Danielle, even coming off the injury. And that hurts. Nick V. Would you say Dakota Dozier and Drew Samia are the worst guard duo in NFL history? Yes. Yes. Dakota Dozier led the league in pressures for guards last year with 46. Because that's an interesting record. Because it's like Dan Reeves' all-time losses record for an NFL head coach, where you have to be good enough to keep getting jobs and keep staying in work, but bad enough to lose those games. It's a really weird thing. I think Jeff Fisher passed him on the list, but point still made. And Dakota Dozier was basically handed a job, and he was so bad that he was able to rack that up because other guards were just benched. It's funny. Samuel Salinger Skull, do you think Kirk will take a pay cut? No. Evo, all right, so Barmore, Trey Smith, Amari, Richie Grant. I'm in. So that's it. That's the Daily Jerome's live stream for Wednesday. Thank you very much for coming along. Subscribe for daily